Happy holidays, everyone, and welcome to Double Play Baseball, a special holiday celebration episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, it probably came out Christmas Eve, so if you celebrate Christmas, you celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, happy holidays from us to you, and we wanted to give you a little present, a little before Christmas and all the other holiday celebrations, our top 25 MLB player rankings. We developed these over the last week, and we're excited to share them to kind of finish out 2022, maybe start a look forward to 2023, and give you guys a little gift for the holidays. So, Ryan, we're going to go 25 to 1. How excited are you, and do you want to start us off?
I'm very excited. 25 players, December 25th is Christmas. I'm going to start with my two honorable mentions, so I'm going to give 26, 27, because we make the rules here. 27, I'm going Carlos Rodon. I think he's very, very close up there, one of the better pitchers, especially after last season's Cy Young. Number 26, a guy I wanted to have in my top 25. I had him at 25, but then I forgot about someone completely who I had to add. It's Julio Rodriguez. I think already after one season, he had 146 WRC plus and a rookie of the year. He's got an MVP coming his way. So those are my two honorable mentions. To kick us off with number 25, I get Jose Altuve, who's quietly had one of the best seasons in his career. His WRC plus and WAR was a little worse, but WRC plus was better than his MVP season in 2017. So he had a wonderful year, and it was kind of quiet too. He had the best season for a second baseman. He's still one of the best players in the league. I got him at 25.
Yeah, I like that ranking. I want to give a couple honorable mentions too. We can call these, I guess, the stocking stuffers. Just left off my list. I didn't rank them in any order, but I had to leave off Rafael Devers and Kyle Tucker, two players who I wanted to have on, two great lefty bats, but just couldn't move them above some of the other guys on the list. And I'll kind of start with a preface of how I went about ranking these players. I wanted to take into account the last three seasons, including 2020. I ranked it mostly on 2022, and so I did a little I started with a little calculation of kind of ranking 60% based on 2022, 30% based off 2021, and then 10% for 2020, which even though it was a 60-game season, I want to put some importance on that. So a player like Julio Rodriguez, who only has played in 2022, I thought it was maybe a little too early to rank him in my top 25, which I know that you didn't end up putting him in, but I wanted to rank off that. So a lot of this is based on mostly 2022, but then also taking into account the certain past seasons as well. Just overall, the best players right now, not who I think is going to be the best in 2023, but just overall who I think is the best right now. So I'll start it off with 25, who was your 27, Carlos Rodon. I'm not sure I can really forgive him for leaving San Francisco as of right now, but he's still top 25 in my eyes. A 2.8 ERA since 2020 with 11.2 WAR. I think that's fourth among pitchers, over 318 and a third innings pitched, 12 strikeouts per 9 innings. For me, the volume wasn't high enough to move him all that much higher on this list, but with healthy seasons like he had in 2022, I expect him to keep rising. I think he is deserving of being number 25.
At 24, I have Austin Riley, who is a guy that could be so much higher with another great season this season, and he's got MVP potential. He's fun to watch. He's coming in at number 24.
I have Austin Riley at number 24. I thought it was maybe a controversial pick because I think that some people maybe don't value the defense he plays at third base. I still think, though, that he's earned a top 25 placement. Didn't have a great 2022, but he's had two MVP caliber seasons in 2021 and 2022, an 864 OPS since 2020, 10.3 WAR, and like I said, most of those came in the last two seasons. So I think Austin Riley can continue to move up. I think he might end up winning an MVP one of these seasons because he's been right in the conversation for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think he was number five or six in this past year's voting. Coming to number 23, it's my first pitcher on the board. I've got Corbin Burns, who even after a down year to his standards, is still coming off a Cy Young in 2021. He gets number 23 on my list, and he's got potential to win another Cy Young.
I'll say I think you severely underrated Corbin Burns, so I'll get to him later. I've got Justin Verlander at 23. He barely pitched since 2020. Obviously, only really pitched in 2022. He had one start in that COVID year in 2020, but his 2022 season was incredibly dominant, and really that season alone earns him a spot on my list. Couldn't put him any higher because if you only pitch one season out of the last three, I can't put you above a guy like Corbin Burns who's pitched all three, but a 6.1 WAR and a 1.75 ERA across 175 innings pitched in 2022. It earns him a spot on my list.
You're going to be surprised as where I have Justin Verlander then. Coming in at my number 22, I've got Xander Bogaerts, who just signed with the Padres. He's consistently one of the best hitters in baseball. He's always around a 120 to 130 WRC plus, defense kind of holds him back from being higher. He's gotten up to a 140 WRC plus. So he's one of the better hitters, maybe the best hitting shortstop in baseball. He slots in at number 22 for me, and he could be much higher with some good seasons for the Padres.
22, I've got Garrett Cole. And Cole gets a lot of hate. Some of it's kind of funny, but overall, I don't think it should distract fans from his consistent performance and a really high-quality volume. 455 innings pitched since 2020 with a 3.28 ERA, strikes out just about 12 batters per 9 innings. So when it came to Verlander and Cole, while maybe Verlander has had the best season out of those two, when you're comparing 181 innings pitched to 455 over the last 3 seasons, I had to lean Garrett Cole. Expected stats kind of lean in his favor, but he also just continuously proves kind of start to start that he can be one of the best arms in baseball, and he's out there every single day. Overall, innings pitched, I know it's not the sexiest stat, but it means you're getting outs for your team, and I think Cole earns a spot in the top 25, even with maybe a down year and not showing his dominance quite like he did back in 2018, 2019.
Yeah, that was one I suspected that we would defer on. I did not get Garrett Cole in my top 25. He would be in the top 30 if we do that. I think he's probably slots in probably 28 to 29 for me, but coming in at number 21, I had a tough time ranking these next two guys. I ended up going Jose Ramirez at number 21. He's still one of the bit more underrated players in baseball, who was an MVP candidate for a lot of last year before he kind of fizzled out, but Jose Ramirez, great switch hitting bat, signed an extension recently, number 21 for the Guardians.
He's one of the most underrated players in baseball because you're putting him at 21. That's all I'll say. I've got Jose Altuve at 21. He really just won't slow down, and he had an underratedly insane season in 2022. He's got an 842 OPS since 2020, despite really a bad COVID season in that 2020 year. And last season, a 164 WRC plus, 6.6 WAR with 18 stolen bases at second base. Continues to prove that he's the best second baseman in the league. I put him at 21.
Number 20 for me was the guy who had trouble ranking with him and Jose Ramirez. I had Rafael Devers, who you had as your honorable mention. He comes in at number 20 for me. Like I said, it's so hard to rank him, but he's one of the better left-handed bats in baseball, and he's slots at number 20. He should get paid pretty soon.
I've got Carlos Correa at number 20. It was really tough to me to decide the two longtime teammates, Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa, who should be higher, but I leaned Correa. They've got really similar performance, but it's the defense and the postseason dominance that made me put Correa over Jose Altuve. I'm on bad terms with him right now, but I'll look past it. In the past 3 years, split between Houston and Minnesota, 130 WRC plus, 822 OPS, won a platinum glove, is continually an elite defender at shortstop. I think he's right there at the start of the top 20.
Coming in at 19 for me, I got Trey Turner, who's a great hitter, elite speed, which kind of makes up for his lack of defense, gets him here at 19, and he's consistently one of the best hitters and for average and speed in baseball. And what he makes up for sometimes for a lack of power, which he still shows power. He's able to stretch singles into doubles and stretch ground outs into singles. So that's kind of something that you can't really teach and something that puts him in the top 20.
19 for me was one of the toughest players to rank. That's Ronald Acuna Jr. He's so good, like insanely good, that it feels weird to rank him here and not higher up on this list, but he's only got a 136 WRC plus since 2020, weighed down by a 114 last season after being over 157 the last 2 years. Healthy Acuna's in the top 10, but he just really doesn't have as many games played as some of these other guys, and when you average out his last 3 seasons, a 136 WRC plus is not as high as some of those other guys that are up higher than him on my list. I really do think if he can battle through these injuries, he'll move up and into the top 10 pretty easily with a good 2023 season. But with the injuries that he's faced in the past, and honestly a pretty disappointing 2022, despite being above average, I got to put Acuna at 19.
I've got Acuna at 18. Like you said, talent-wise, he's top 10, and I just need to see it in action for a full season. We saw it kind of in 2021 before he got hurt. He was the leading MVP candidate for quite some time, but I'm excited for his 2023 and what he can do, and he can vault his way into the top 10.
Number 18, right above Ronald Acuna, is going to be Nolan Arenado for me. He's such a stud. I think that people that said he couldn't hit outside of Coors Field have been silenced. A 12.4 WAR since 2020 with an 832 OPS. His best season was this past year, but Only a 124 WRC plus over the past 3 seasons, even compared to Acuna, who I said was lower compared to other players. Acuna was at 136 since 2020, Nolan Arenado 124 since 2020, but he's played more games. He's a better defender, I think, than Acuna is. Overall, the expected stats don't love Nolan Arenado, but he's had a great season. I just couldn't put him any higher just off his 2022 season because he was hitting a little bit down in 2020, 2021, and there's just some great players above him.
Yeah, that's one where we definitely differ there. I've got him much higher. But coming in at 17 was a guy I had trouble ranking with Trey Turner. It's Carlos Correa, who you kind of already talked about. Clutch hitter, amazing gloves, and that's all the nice things I'm going to say about him.
Yeah, I've got Trey Turner at number 17. I think that Trey Turner deserves to be above Carlos Correa at this point in his career, and I was expecting to rank Correa higher than Turner because I'm a little shocked to see him here this high at 20. At 17, but he's super consistent in all areas. An 878 OPS since 2020, 71 stolen bases, gives him 15.9 WAR combined over the last 3 seasons, which is second in the league in that span. So I could argue that I should have put him a little bit higher, but I was surprised to see him get this high. I think he deserves to be over Correa. I've got him at 17.
Coming in at my number 16 was the top shortstop for me. Even after not playing in 2022, it's Fernando Tatis, who I think he's good enough talent-wise to crack the top 15, but obviously you've got the off-the-field issues, the injuries, not playing this year. Kind of keep him out at 16, but he's top 10, maybe even better when he's on the field.
At 16, the guy that I thought you kind of disrespected, I've got Corbin Burnes, the leader in pitching WAR since 2020. Despite what I would say a down year in 2022, Burnes still an absolute stud. 2.62 ERA over 428 innings pitched over the last 3 years. 2.4 FIP, striking out 12 batters per 9 innings. He had that amazing 2021 season, which even though it wasn't this past season, I still need to give him credit for. So Corbin Burnes, while he wasn't as great in 2022 as 2021, has still been fantastic since that COVID year.
Starting off my top 15, a guy that's kind of tough to rank. He was my MVP pick for last year. It's Vladdy, who had one of the better seasons, which would win him MVP in 2021 and most other seasons if it weren't for Shohei Ohtani. And so Vladdy, even after a down year, he was still very good. Down year compared to 2021. We'll see how he does in 2023, if he's going to be closer to 2021 or 22 as a player. But he comes in starting off my top 15.
I'm glad to see we were in the same range for Fernando. I've got him at 15, so only one spot ahead of where you had Tatis. By far the hardest player to rank. Injuries, steroid scandals, overall just lack of games played. But when he's on the field, he's a top 5 player very easily. 963 OPS and 155 WRC plus since 2020, but he's only played in 189 games. So he's really only played one full season across the last 2.5 years, considering the COVID year. It's just not enough games played, and with the scandal, with everything like that, with some of his off-the-field issues, you have to wonder maybe he takes a step back this year, but when he's on the field, he hits so many home runs. He's one of the most electric players in the league. He'd be top 5 easy if he had continued to play.
Coming in, I'm at 14. I've got maybe the best hitter in baseball, Yordan Alvarez, and that one was a very tough one to rank for me. Just because, he's a DH, you kind of, I guess he played a lot of left field, and he's going to play a lot of left field. Actually, maybe not after they get Michael Brantley back, but with the Michael Brantley injury, he played a lot of left field, and he's just a subpar defender, which kind of leaves him here at 14, but he's one of the best hitters in baseball. And, he was an MVP candidate despite being a DH. It's been a long time since that happened. Yordan Alvarez, 14.
At 14, I've got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., so we were pretty similarly ranked on Vladdy and Fernando. Like Tatis, also hard to rank because he had that amazing 2021, but a more down year in 2022. Still a 143 WRC plus and an 891 OPS since 2022. The availability is what I think puts him above Tatis. I would say Tatis is a more talented player, and maybe I'd expect him to have a better year this year if both of them play the same amount of games. But Vladdy, with the consistency, with the games played, I think earns him a spot at 14, right above Tatis and a couple of spots ahead of Acuna for me.
The next guy I've got, I could honestly put a little higher, but I'm going to go at 13. I've got Max Scherzer, who's got a 2.29 ERA last year, which I was surprised to learn. I did not realize he gave up that few runs last year. I slot him in at 13. He's one of the better pitchers in baseball. He's lived up to that contract so far with the Mets, and we'll see what he does this year as he's kind of getting older. But Max Scherzer, he's been great the last few years in his whole career. Number 13 for me.
Yeah, Max Scherzer not in my top 25. I was kind of surprised you have him this far ahead of Corbin Burnes, who I'd argue has been better over the last 3 years. I mean, statistically has been better over the past couple years. At 13, I've got Sandy Alcantara. I won't reveal where I have him ranked in pitchers, but leads the league in innings pitched since 2020, a 2.74 ERA over that stretch, that dominant 2022 Cy Young season. He gets outs, which is so important, leading the league in innings, high volume, but also being such a quality pitcher with a 2.74 ERA.
I didn't have Sandy in my top 25. So coming at 12, another pitcher that I've got is Justin Verlander, who you mentioned earlier. I mean, he's got a Cy Young in his last 2 full seasons. Like, there's some kind of guys that you can knock off for being hurt, but when Verlander has a Cy Young, gets hurt, and then comes back and has another Cy Young, I feel like that's good enough to be top 12, number 12 in baseball.
Well, I don't really understand. Like, I mean, Sandy Alcantara has a Cy Young this year and hasn't missed years in past years, or hasn't missed any seasons in the past couple of years.
Well, it's one season. The same reason you left other guys low.
I guess, but his 2021 was pretty fantastic as well. So, it's your list, but I've got Yordan Alvarez coming in at number 12. If he wasn't so bad on defense, I'd rocket him up this list. One of my favorite players in the league, maybe the best pure hitter in baseball, a 160 WRC plus and a 944 OPS since 2020. He's the highest ranked Astro on my list, and he's so good.
Coming in at number 11 for me, just missed out in the top 10. This one's a hard one to rank for me. It's Paul Goldschmidt, who just coming off an MVP season. He gets number 11 for me.
Number 11, you're going to be mad at me, but I've got Mookie Betts. Just misses out on the top 10 despite another pretty solid year last year, but since 2020, an 876 OPS, a 13.2 WAR. It was really tough picking for me between him at number 11 and who I have at number 10, but I've Mookie Betts just missing out on the top 10.
Yeah, you're going to be surprised where I got Mookie then.
Biased. I'm not going to be surprised.
So coming in at number 10, starting off the top 10, I've got Freddie Freeman, who him and Goldschmidt were tough to rank, but Freddie Freeman's just Mr. Consistent. Starts the top 10 after a 4th place in MVP voting. Won the MVP in the shortened 2020 season and a great 2021 as well. He gets number 10.
Number 10, just above Mookie Betts, where these players were so close. It's Manny Machado for me. I asked you yesterday where you would rank those two compared to each other, and I know you would take Mookie above Manny, but let me enlighten you a little bit. I really think Manny's really lived up to his contract in past seasons, and he earns that top 10 spot. Both him and Mookie over the last 3 years have a 139 WRC plus, but compared to Mookie, Manny a 14.3 WAR, which is higher than Mookie's 13.2. I think slightly better defense, and then also leadership postseason hitting potentially put Manny Machado above Mookie Betts. I think that what he's done in a lineup that hasn't had Fernando Tatis in the past couple years is really admirable, and I think that statistically he's just better than Mookie Betts, plays a better defense than him as well. So I don't know if you stuck with having Mookie above Manny, but I think it's fair to put Manny Machado above Mookie Betts on this top 25 list.
Yeah, you're starting to make me a little scared as if I forgot someone in my top 10, because you've named off 3 players previously that are in my top 10. Coming in at number 9 is one of those players. I got Nolan Arenado, who was 3rd in MVP voting last year. He's the 2nd best third baseman for me in the league, and I mean, he's just been great his entire career. Number 9, Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, statistically, I think Nolan Arenado, based off last season, you could put up there, but I think people tend to look past how he struggled in 2021 and 2020, where he was not as great of a hitter as he was in 2022, and he really turned it on. But even then, we both agreed that Manny Machado was better than Nolan Arenado. That's why I have him ranked so high above. I think even Mookie Betts had a better not a better 2022, but a better last couple seasons than Nolan Arenado. We'll get to who I have higher. But number 9 for me is Jacob Degrom. I think he could be way higher on this list with a cleaner bill of health. Easily the best pitcher in baseball. But when you're only throwing 224 innings pitched since the 2020 season compared to guys like Garrett Cole and guys like Sandy Alcantara who have thrown over 450 innings, it's hard to put you much higher, even though he's been so dominant with a 2.05 ERA and a 1.8 FIP since 2020, averaging 14 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's so good, just wish he could stay healthy, and he'd be way higher on this list.
Yeah, I've got Jacob Degrom slotting at my 8 for the exact same reasons. He could be top 5 when he's on the field, and he's far above any other pitcher when he's healthy. Number 8, Jacob Degrom.
I've got Paul Goldschmidt at 8, and I'm kind of confused why you put Nolan Arenado above Paul Goldschmidt, because I think Goldschmidt had a better 2022 season, and he's also been better combined the last 3 years. I mean, a 982 OPS, 35 homers, 7.1 WAR last year in 2022, and overall, he's just been a better player over the last 3 seasons. I know he plays a less premium position, but he still had more WAR than Nolan Arenado over the past 3 years, and he's been a more consistent hitter. So I've got Paul Goldschmidt at 8.
Slotting at number 7, I've got Manny Machado, who was just second in MVP voting. He's the best third baseman in baseball right now. Manny Machado coming into potentially a contract year. He's number 7.
7 for me is going to be Freddie Freeman. It was really hard to rank Goldie and Freddie Freeman, but I still think despite Goldie's MVP season this past year, Freeman's still the best first baseman in the league. He hasn't had a WRC plus under 130 since 2012, 15.1 WAR since 2020, just edges out Paul Goldschmidt. I've got Freddie Freeman at 7, although those two are really interchangeable for me. If you wanted to be more partial and look toward the 2020 season to rank Goldschmidt above Freeman, I wouldn't blame you, but Freddie Freeman had an MVP caliber season in 2022 as well, just didn't play quite as well as Goldschmidt. I think he's been more consistent over the past couple years.
Slotting at my number 6, a guy who could be the best baseball player in baseball in the next couple of years, Juan Soto. He had a little bit of a down year. Still a great WRC plus. I didn't write down exactly what it was, and he still gets on base above a 400 on base percentage. So Juan Soto, defense kind of hurts him a little bit. He's a serviceable outfielder at best, so he's number 6.
My number 6 is the only guy who I'm kind of thinking you might have forgotten. I've got Bryce Harper at number 6. Could be even higher again, like Jacob Degrom with a cleaner bill of health, but he's been so good the past 3 seasons. A 971 OPS since 2020. Had that great MVP season in 2021. 6.6 WAR, 1044 OPS. He's going to deal with some injuries this year. He's dealt with some injuries in the past year. I've got him at number 6, but I wouldn't blame you moving him a little higher. It's just the health for me.
Coming at number 5 was Mookie Betts for me. He's the true 5-tool player. He does everything amazing, and even last year, I think he was 4th or 5th in MVP voting this past year, and the defense was amazing. He's a Gold Glover. WRC plus is always good. The WAR is good. He does everything great. Not sure why you ranked him so low.
I don't understand how you have Mookie Betts over Juan Soto.
Yeah, he's a better player. Juan Soto is just gets on base. That's the only thing he does convincingly better than Mookie Betts.
Well, I'll enlighten you in a couple of spots. At number 5, the player who I really don't understand how you have him so low. I have Jose Ramirez at number 5. Probably the most consistent star player in all of baseball. He had a 3.2 WAR in 2020. In 60 games, 3.2, 6.5 in 2021, 6.2 in 2022. He's got an 899 OPS and a 143 WRC plus since 2020. He's the best third baseman in baseball. He's got 57 stolen bases over that same span, and he's hitting in lineups that aren't as good as the lineups that Nolan Arenado, Manny Machado are hitting in. I think Jose Ramirez, you severely underrated him. He's the best third baseman in baseball, in my opinion.
I think you're overrating him. You always talk like this past year. I felt like he kind of got his flowers a little bit, but you were still talking about how he's severely underrated. I see now why you think you a little overrate him.
Well, I'm curious. How is Nolan Arenado better than Jose Ramirez?
They're comparable hitting wise. Other than
not over the past 3 seasons. I mean, Nolan Arenado had. Jose Ramirez has not struggled in a single season. Could have won the MVP in 2020. He's had MVP caliber seasons in 2021 and 2022, where Nolan had that MVP-like year this year, but had kind of struggled in 2021 and 2020.
Nolan Arenado is also far and away the better defender. Like Jose Ramirez doesn't hold a cup of water to Arenado.
Yes, but still, I mean, wins above replacement wise, I would still argue that Jose Ramirez has a high edge in that. I averaged out, so when I told you that I did like the measurements, measuring out 60% based off 2022, 30% based off 2021, and then 10% based off 2020, just to get an actual gauge of what wins above replacement thinks. Multiplied those out so to give people a numerical ranking. Jose Ramirez at 5.99. I'm going to scroll down to Nolan Arenado, who had 5.68. So I mean, even then, I think that hitting wise, statistically wise, consistency wise as well, I've got Jose Ramirez at way above Nolan Arenado.
Coming in at number 4, I've got Bryce Harper, who you thought I forgot about. He won the MVP in 2021 and was great until he got hurt, and then was great when he came back this past year. I think he's going to miss the majority of 2023, but he's one of the best when he's on the field.
I've got Juan Soto at number 4. I know you think that he's not all that great, but even though people think he struggled last year, his 2020 seasons and 2021 season were both phenomenal. The best on-base percentage in the league since 2020 by a very large margin, 440. He's got a 959 OPS over the last 3 seasons. He's better than Bryce Harper. He's better than Mookie Betts, and he's at number 4. He's going to bounce back this season in a big way, and I think he's going to prove you wrong.
I think now in the top 3, I think we're going to have the same order for these guys. Coming in at number 3 for me is Aaron Judge, coming off one of the best seasons of all time. He could be number 2 for me, but I'm going to slot him in at number 3.
Yeah, there was a part of me that wanted to rank Judge at number 2, but I have to put him at number 3. Leads the league in WAR since 2020, 18 wins above replacement with a 10.06 OPS and 110 homers over the last 3 seasons. Really one of the best seasons we've ever seen in 2022, but there's just 2 guys above him that it's hard to rank him above.
Yeah, so now we get into the top 2, which is funny because assuming we have the same, they're both teammates on one of the not better teams in baseball. I've got Mike Trout at number 2. He just loses the best player in baseball title because of his inconsistent health-wise. I think that's a place where you can hurt him a little bit just because of what the number 1 guy has done, something we've never seen before. But Mike Trout, he's still one of the best, and he played, I think it was around 100 games last year.
It was 116.
And put up like a 6 WAR. So if he played a full season, that's rivaling Judge's season. It wouldn't have been quite as good as Judge last season, but it still would have been an MVP season in almost any other year, and it would have rivaled one of the greatest seasons of all time from Aaron Judge. So Mike Trout is still a top 2 player in baseball when he's on the field. It's just the health hurts him a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I've got Trout at number 2. I'm glad that the person at number 1 is past Mike Trout, but it just sucks the circumstances with Trout missing so much time. But a 174 WRC plus since 2020, OPS at 1013. He's so good. Even this last year, he turned into just a home run hitting machine. I think he hit over 40 home runs despite missing all those games. Mike Trout is so good, but I have to put him at number 2.
And number 1, we're both going to have him here. It's Shohei Ohtani. I think he should be number 1, and anyone who's ever watched baseball, if they're ranking, Shohei should be number 1. He pitches and hits at an elite level. I mean, there's not much to say. No one else in baseball history has ever done what he's doing. He's number 1.
Yeah, I think an 886 OPS since 2020 would have earned a hitter a spot on my list. 2.9 ERA would have earned a pitcher a spot on my list. And Shohei Ohtani is both at the same time. He's number 1. He's top 25, and he's right there at number 1 because he's been so great. 17.4 combined WAR over the past 3 seasons, and that was even with the 2020 season that's not even close to the seasons he's had in 2021 and 2022. He's been the best player in the league for the last 2 years.
So happy holidays, everyone. That is our top 25 player rankings. Make sure you let us know if you're on the podcast. Go to our socials. Let us know what you thought about these rankings. And if you're on YouTube, leave a comment down below. Who are we too high on? Who are we too low on? On the ones we disagreed on? Who was right? Who had the better list? Let us know down below. This was fun doing. I've always kind of, like when people ask me who's the best player or who's a top 5, is this person a top 5 player? I'm glad I now have my list so I can refer to it when people ask me these questions. So I'm glad we were able to do this. Happy holidays. That was our top 25. Jack, what do you got to say?
I think you should use my list if someone asks you, because I don't know. There's some players that I've got some gripes about on your list, so I'm sure we'll talk about that off camera. But yeah, let us know down below who you think is better. If you're listening on Spotify, you can't see our Christmas sweaters, the Santa hat that Ryan's wearing, but we hope that you guys have a happy holidays and overall enjoy Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you guys celebrate with your family, with whoever you celebrate it with. We hope you guys have a good time. We'll be back after the holiday season to kind of start getting into some outlook for next year, because most of the free agency news is done. Most of the trades are probably done for the offseason, and we got to start looking ahead to a 2023 season as we're under 100 days away from opening day. But open up those presents, enjoy the great holiday food, and thank you guys for listening and spending your Christmas Eve or this holiday day to listen to Double Play Baseball. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.